welcome to my channel on the best of fantasy. This is the week that was. And it has been a rather fine week, I think, on the channel. Beginning with Dear Dr. Fantasy with Patrick. I had a wonderful time talking to my good friend Patrick Leo, who is a fantastic booktuber, but also very well known over on Goodreads. And we had a wide-ranging conversation about a lot of our favorite fantasy series. We threw in some science fiction in there as well, and talked about all kinds of things about just running a channel. And also I thought it was a lot of fun to learn about how Patrick got involved in Goodreads and on YouTube. So it was really a good time getting to know my fellow booktuber and somebody that I think has earned a lot of respect from our community and someone that is well loved as well. So it was a great time, and I had some really wonderful feedback from you guys in the comments on that conversation. So it was, I think, something that a lot of people besides myself enjoyed a lot. So I'm very happy with how that turned out. And very happy with how Dear Dr. Fantasy is going. We're 4 episodes in, and it seems to be doing pretty well. I'm really pleased at the quality of the conversations and the comments and the interactions, and that's what it's all about here. So I'm really happy about that, and happy I decided to jump in the game of having these chat shows, because they're really, I think they can be wonderful ways to build up our community and talk about the things that we love in a slightly less formal way, in a way that just feels like a nice sort of chat, a get-together. So that's a lot of fun. And the other thing I did on the channel, the other video I did this week, was a look at Tolkien's essay on fairy stories, which is a classic. I mean, if there is a classic essay on the fantasy genre, it is Tolkien's essay on fairy stories. And he wrote it before the word fantasy was coined as a description of our genre. So I think that he included fairy stories as in the old, related to myth and all that sort of thing. But also, I think for Tolkien, what he was writing, it was in many ways similar in terms of its intention and its effect. So he, I think, included his own work when he was describing fairy stories as well, and what they can do for readers and people who participate in the journey that is a fantasy story. So I got, again, some fantastic feedback on that video. It wasn't extremely well watched, but that's perfectly fine. I'm not exactly sure why, but the Tolkien related content never seems to get a lot of views, but the people who do view it are very passionate. So I'm not sure why that is exactly. I think maybe it's just the age, but that's fine. I have no problems with that. I grew up reading Tolkien, and Tolkien was the writer who certainly began my love of fantasy, but that's not true for everybody these days. There are lots of other wonderful sources of inspiration out there as well. But Tolkien remains very relevant, I think, and I know that there are channels on YouTube that are dedicated solely to Tolkien-related content and Middle-earth and all of that. So there's plenty of interest out there, I think. At any rate, I also did some other wonderful things outside of my own channel. I was in a discussion on the channel Steve Talks Books on Gardens of the Moon, book 1 of the Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson, and that was a great conversation. I really had a fun time going back to that first book in the series, which I reread more than a year ago now with AP as part of when we began our reread of the Malazan Book of the Fallen. So it's really great to revisit that book and to get some new perspectives on it, to hear what these people who are just starting their read of the Malazan Book of the Fallen think of this opening book, and to hear their insights. And I really enjoyed what they had to say, particularly about the characters and their perspective on it, and how they're adjusting to the Malazan Book of the Fallen, which is different from most other fantasy, it's fair to say, in some important respects. So I did learn a lot from those folks, and I'm very grateful to have been part of that conversation. And that included not only Steve, but Yolene from Yolene Reads, and Stacy from Stacy's All Booked, and there was Cersei's Booked, and also Layla Gushi, and please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the last name there. And also there was the author Joseph Carroll. So it was a great group of people. And I hope that they won't mind me coming back to have some more conversations with them about their Malazan experience, because all of them indicated that they were ready to go, that they were invested in the series and were going to continue reading Dead House Gates. So I hope to be chatting with them once again. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. What else did I do? Well, I was in another Malazan discussion. This one was from the Novels of the Malazan Empire by Ian C. Esselmont. I was talking about Blood and Bone, Book 5 of that series, with my good buddy AP from A Critical Dragon, and also Ian Esselmont himself, the author. So that was a really fun and just fantastic discussion. To get Ian Esselmont's insights into what he was doing in that book. It was fantastic, very revealing, very interesting discussion, and just a privilege to be part of it, because I always learn a lot when I talk to authors. And both Erickson and Esselmont have been very gracious with their time during this read/reread of their respective series. So I am incredibly grateful for that. These authors are wonderful people, and they are full of great insights. And so talking with Esselmont about things like the influence of his studies in colonialism and travel narratives on this particular book was absolutely just illuminating for my understanding of the story and the Malazan series, but all of them as a whole, what they were doing when they built this Malazan world, and some of their concerns and the themes they built into these series. So I really enjoyed that discussion a lot. Well, let's talk about what I am now reading. So, well, there's a bit of Malazan stuff here. We are coming to the end of these reads. So I actually have finished Dust of Dreams. I just finished Dust of Dreams, and wow, just wow. I'm still in this sort of a kind of a state of bliss, and but also almost disbelief, but just so much. The end of Dust of Dreams, I had forgotten just how fast-paced it is. And I have to be honest with you, I mean, I don't normally think of anything from the Malazan Book of the Fallen as being fast-paced necessarily, except maybe you get the convergences at the end of the books, and they can roll. But the last 100 or so pages of Dust of Dreams, wow, just zipped by. I mean, that was just, whoa. And I enjoyed this book even more than I could have anticipated this time around. And I'm so excited for the conclusion. It's really, Dust of Dreams and The Crippled God are really one book, they're one story. So I almost am tempted to just run and just leap right into The Crippled God. I'm sure most people who've read the series can relate to that. So I'm going to resist the temptation. However, I do have some other things that I'm doing as well. I won't resist it for very long, however. But so the next thing I'm going to read is going to be An Autumn War from Daniel Abraham's The Long Price Quartet. And I'm very excited for that. I have read the first two books. Autumn War is the third in this quartet. And I anticipate it's going to be a fantastic read, because I have enjoyed what I've read so far very much. And I keep hearing that Autumn War, or perhaps the last book, The Price of Spring, are the best in the series. So one of the two usually is what you'll hear. And so I'm excited. I'm really, based on what I've heard, I'm going to love this book. And, it'll be a great thing to have a Daniel Abraham series under my belt, because he is a writer I've been hearing about for years and have wanted to try to see what his writing is like. And I'm very happy, especially because of the urging of Alan from the Library of Alexandria. I don't know if I would have gotten to it as soon as I did if it hadn't been for Alan. So thank you, Alan, for being the long price prophet. So yeah, very effective proselytizing there, Alan. And I'm also reading or rereading Tolkien's translation of Beowulf. This is absolutely like coming home for me. The combination of Tolkien and Beowulf, this is my bliss right here. So I'll be talking about it in a moment, but I'll be in a conversation with Mike over at Mike's Book Reviews about this translation of Beowulf, and it is just wonderful, wonderful stuff. So just something I can lose myself in any old time. And I don't know, if there's anything I've read as many times as I've read Beowulf, with all the different translations and things I've read. These days I usually read it in Old English, but I'm reading this translation so that I can be part of this discussion with Mike. And it is a lot of fun because I love, it's almost like seeing Beowulf through Tolkien's eyes, as close as I'd be able to get by reading this translation. So it's a pretty cool experience. After that, after I finish Autumn War, essentially, I'm going to be reading The Crippled God. And this will be it. This will be the last book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. It'll be the end of the reread that I'm doing with AP. And just, it's amazing to think about that we could even be at this point. Having gone through as much as we have and gotten to this point is just tremendous. I feel like I'm on the verge of something big, something amazing, and I'm pretty sad that it's almost over as well. So it's kind of a tough one. I'm excited, but I'm also at the same time in a weird sort of way dreading the end of this journey. But there will be many other journeys to come, including some Malazan ones, because I think one thing that I don't know if I've mentioned this before or not, but one thing we've talked about doing, AP and I, possibly, we shall see, but as the Malazan authors, Erickson and Esselmont, keep publishing books, we might do, for example, a reread of Paths to Ascendancy when Ian Esselmont is ready to come out with his next book in that series. And I would most certainly want to reread the first two books in the Carcanis trilogy shortly before Stephen Erickson publishes the third, A Walk in Shadow. So yeah, so there'll be plenty of Malazan content, in other words, even when we're done with these reads. Lots of great stuff to come. Plus, I've talked about many other times the series that we intend to take up, Johnny Wirtz's Wars of Light and Shadow, and also the Empire trilogy she wrote with Raymond Feist, and of course Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings, and we're going to be reading some David Gemmell, starting with Legend, and continuing eventually in the Draenei series. So we've got lots of good stuff coming, and of course I need to finish the Dark Tower series, and I want to get back into Dresden Files, and I want to get back into the Witcher books, and I have so many other books, Mark Lawrence's Book of the Ancestor trilogy. I want to get into that. So lots of stuff. And of course, the Books of Babel, so by Josiah Bancroft. And I've got a bunch of stuff that I'm excited to get to, plus quite a few self-published and independently published books that I'm really excited to get to. We have to get through the Malazan stuff first, and then I will get to all this stuff that I'm really, really excited to start reading. So the last of the Malazan books that we'll be reading, though, after The Crippled God, we have to finish Novels of the Malazan Empire and finish off with A Sail. And Ian Esselmont was telling me that a lot of this stuff is going to be in my wheelhouse because I did a video with AP on a poem that Esselmont wrote. And let's see, what was that in? It was in Orb, Scepter, Throne. And it was very clearly a poem that Esselmont was inspired by Old English poetry. And I remarked in that video that it felt like to me that Esselmont wrote that poem just for me. He told me that I'm probably going to find some similar stuff in A Sail. So I'm really, really excited to read that. And it will be the last book in all of the Malazan series that have been published so far. For me, I have read everything else that Esselmont and Erickson have published. So that'll be it, A Sail. And until they come up with some new stuff. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff coming up on the channel, and including those chats. So the one with Mike I already mentioned on Beowulf, and then of course the Autumn War is part of my buddy read with. Let's see, the next chat is going to be on Sarah's channel. Sarah reads on Autumn War, and we have not actually scheduled it yet, so I can't tell you the date for sure, but I think it's not too far away. And that will include Alan from the Library of Alexandria. Oh, what a long name, Alan. And then Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and Nico from Nico's book reviews, and Zara as well. And this time around, I'm hoping. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, there's great stuff coming up there. And what else? Oh, well, I mentioned Dear Dr. Fantasy earlier with Patrick. Well, I've mentioned as well that my next episode is going to be with none other than Alan, Speak of the Devil, from the Library of Alexandria. And I have someone for the chat after that for Dear Dr. Fantasy. I have asked someone, and she has said yes, so I'm very excited that I will be having Sarah as well in the not too distant future. Plus, there are going to be some surprise videos from me in, I would say mid-March or so. Something I'm really excited for. I'm going to keep it secret for now, but it's really tough. I will say that there's some really, let's just say, some interesting convergences in the works. I think that's a nice way to put it. And I'm hoping that some videos will come out of this. Yeah, I will leave that as a surprise for everyone, and hope that you will tune in when these things come out. In the meantime, though, thank you for watching this, and I'm excited for all this stuff coming up. I'm excited for all of your comments and interactions and all of that, and I'm so very grateful to be part of this grand adventure here on BookTube. It's been a lot of fun these 2 years, and you guys have made it so thank you very much. Until next time.